Good afternoon, class. Uh, I've, I've already uh, done a video on VAT, but I couldn't finish, and that's the continuation of that video. So after I finish with this one, I'll send everything to you. So you get a continuation of the video or the presentation on VAT. When I was taking you through the VAT video or presentation, I did it up to illustration 2. I even started with illustration 3 where I had a problem and I needed to stop. So I'm continuing with illustration 3. So I'm reading the question and then I've solved it already. So I'll take you through the solution as well. And then you see how that kind of question needs to be solved. This is a bit different from the first two illustrations that I took you through. It's a bit different because with this very one, when you are answering the question, you must know your principles, you must know the facts so far as that is concerned. Well, the question is asking you to calculate your input and output VAT, all right, but it goes further to find out. It goes further to find out whether you know those items that are exempted, whether you know those items that are relieved, and then those that are not what relieved. It goes further to be looking at all those things. So let me read the question and I'll take you through the solution. Illustration 3. The following information relates to the VAT accounts and other documents of Amas Limited. For the month of January 2019, the company is registered for VAT and makes all kinds of supplies. Amas Limited submits returns to a Doom Medium Tax Office. Supplies. The first one is sale of goods to NADMO for emergency operations, 100,000. The continuation is down here. So let me take you to that place. I don't know why it has been separated, but that's the continuation. Second item under the supply is that sale of bottled water is VAT exclusive, and that is 48,000. We have VAT exclusive cash sales of tradable supplies of 200,000. Sale of fishing and then farming equipment, 260,000. Gifts of goods to family members, VAT inclusive, 10,000. I think the figures are there. So let me just read what we have there. VAT inclusive sales of tradable supplies on credit, sale of mosquito nets, drawing of goods for personal use, which is also VAT exclusive, sale of machine for use by disabled or disables, which is also VAT inclusive, and then credit sales, which is subject to 5% discount. And then we have purchases and then other expenses as well. The requirement is that we should use this to prepare the total output VAT and then the input VAT. And the tax, the total tax that is due the company which is Amas Limited, what's their total tax? So if we are being asked to find out the total tax, at the end of the day, you realize that the Get Fund and then the National Health Insurance Levy, together with the actual VAT, all the taxes on them need to be put together and submitted and be submitted to GRA. But when you are doing the submission, you fill a form, you definitely fill two forms. One form for the VAT, which is separate, and then another form will take care of the national health insurance and then Get Fund taxes that you have collected on your taxable supplies. Okay, so I'm taking you through the solution. If you look at the solution, I'm first computing the output VAT, and I've done the solution in the table form because of the nature of the question. We have sale of goods to NADMO, which is 100,000, as I mentioned. That is the value that we are going to tax, or we are coming to calculate the VAT on, is the taxable value. And the amount we'll get which is due GRA, will come under the total tax to GRA. And then we'll try to take out the actual VAT in that amount, because that total amount to GRA is made up of what? The Get Fund, National Health Insurance Levy, and then the VAT. So after you've gotten that, then you try to get the VAT components out of that total. So I've created those various columns and the headings are there, so they are self-explanatory. So as I've indicated, the first point talks about sale of goods to NADMO. If someone sells goods to NADMO, NADMO is what? An emergency institution or unit which has been taking care of what? Emergency situations or have been salvaged emergency situations. So if people want to sell to them, or NADMO wants to get some goods and then be using it or be supplying those who are being affected, that kind of goods will come under relief. If you remember very well in your notes, I gave you some items that are relieved per this VAT law 870. So the VAT Act 870 has given some items that are being relieved and some items that are also exempted. And then we have others that are also zero rated. And then we have the normal ones that we calculate our VAT on, which is standard rated items. So if you see standard supply or standard rated items, they are those ones that we need to calculate VAT on. But those that we need not to calculate VAT on, they will be either a relief, or they will be an exempted item, or they will be what? Zero rated item. So I've indicated here for you to know whether the question or the item involved is a rated item, standard rated item, or it's a relief item, or it's what? An exempted item. So the NADMO one that I'm talking about is a relief. You can never charge the VAT on, because their items normally fall under that. It could happen that someone even wants to give something to NADMO for them to distribute to those who are being affected in terms of what? Disaster or something. Parliament may pass a law or pass, let me put it that way, Parliament will pass a law and then they will exempt that kind of what? They will relieve that kind of what? Items that people have imported just to support the NADMO people. So normally their items are under relief, and if it's under relief and you are not going to calculate any VAT on, then under the calculation of the VAT, you see I've made it zero. So there's nothing there, and I've indicated that it's what? A relief. If you come to the second item, which is the sale of what? A bottle of water, or sale of bottled water. Sale of bottled water, we need to charge VAT on. But with a sachet and another water that will be taken from maybe caps and so forth, we don't calculate VAT on. But if it's a well-packaged bottled water, then we need to charge VAT on. And I've already stressed on this, that when you are coming to calculate your VAT, you first need to calculate the National Health Insurance Levy, and then your Get Fund. Before the figure you get, you add them to the figure you're supposed to calculate the VAT on before you calculate that for VAT. And VAT, its actual rate is what? 12.5%. And the National Health Insurance Levy is 2.5%. Get Fund is also 2.5%. So the bottled water, yes, we need to calculate VAT on. So if you look at the calculation, I've indicated that there should be 0.025 on 48,000. The 48,000 is the taxable value. That's the total amount of that bottled water that we are talking about. And 2.5%, if you convert it, is the same as 0.025. So when you calculate it on the 48,000, you get 1,200. That is for National Health Insurance Levy. Then you calculate the same 2.5% on the 48,000, you get 1,200 for Get Fund. So the 1,200, when you put them together, you get 2,400. And then 2,400, you need to add the 2,400 to the 48,000, and that will give you 50,400. Then you now multiply by what? The 12.5%, which is for VAT. And that will give you 6,300. So the 6,300 you have gotten for VAT plus the 2,400 that you had for National Health Insurance Levy and then the GET Fund, all together will give you 8,700. So that's the total tax to GRE, 8,700. But when you want to show the VAT component, then you show that the VAT component is for 6,300. And the item involved is a standard rated item or supply. So I've given the narration or I've also indicated that for you. And then when you take the cash sales too is normal VAT item. And therefore we need to charge VAT on. So we first calculate our 2.5% or the 5,000, another 2.5 thousand, and another 2.5% of the 5,000. That will give us 10,000. We'll add the 10,000 to the 200,000, and that will give us 210,000. Then we now apply what? The VAT of 12.5%, and that will give us 2,250. So the 2,250 plus the 10,000 will give us 3,250. That is the total tax. But the VAT component is between the 50, that is in that 3,650, and it's a standard rated item. When you take fishing and farming equipment, it's also an item that we exempt tax, we exempt VAT on. So because we exempt VAT on, we need not to calculate anything like VAT or national health insurance or whatever it is. So you have seen that I've just indicated that exempt. And then the value that I'm supposed to obtain, I've written 0 there because it's what? An exempted item. Then we have gifts. So these things that I'm talking about, you have to read the notes very well before you know that fishing, fishing and a farming item like equipment is what? Exempted. If you don't read the notes, you will not know, because you know some medical items too, they are exempted and so forth. So you read those things, and that will let you know whether the item we are talking about is an exempt item, a relief, or is an item that we need to charge VAT on. Gifts of goods to family members. If you are into production or you are supplying items to people and you give some out as what gift to your family members, for the government, he doesn't know or he doesn't accept that because you have given it to your family members as gifts, you're not supposed to tax or you're not supposed to calculate the VAT on. You have to calculate VAT on. So the question concerning those gifts, it says that it's what? It's VAT inclusive. So when you see the question, you have to assess it and know whether it's VAT inclusive or VAT exclusive. The two are different. The treatment will be different if it's VAT inclusive, and then the treatment will also be different if it's what? VAT exclusive. So you have to watch out for those things. So with the gift of goods to family members, the question says that it is VAT what? Inclusive. So if it's VAT inclusive, it means that the question there is telling you that they've already included the VAT. That is, they have included the 2.5 for VAT, 2.5, sorry, 2.5 for National Health Insurance Levy, the 2.5% for GET Fund, and then the 12.5%. So all those things have been calculated already and they have been added to get that figure that you see there. So it's your duty to work out and let us know the component that is for what? Is for National Health Insurance Levy, the component that is for GET Fund, and then the component that is for VAT. And those 10 is not so easy calculating that. So some experts have developed some figures or some fractions that we use for calculating that. So I've made those calculations here for you to see. So it's a standard fraction that you can use to calculate those things to get the components involved, the various components involved. So if it's VAT inclusive, which means that they've already calculated the National Health Insurance GET Fund and then the VAT in the cost or the taxable value of the item, then you are just to show the components for those things as I've explain to you. So for the 2.5%, you use 4 over 189 times the value that has been given to you in the question, and that will give you 211.64 for national health insurance. The same thing, 4 over 189 times the value that has been given for that particular item, and that also gives you the same 211.64 for get fund. And then when you want to get that of the VAT, which is 12.5%, it's not the same as the 2.5%. That one is 12.5%. So for the VAT, you have to use a fraction 1 over 9 times the value that has been given to you in the question. And that will give you 1111.11, which is the VAT component. So if you want to separate or you want to indicate the VAT component, then that will be the 1111.11. And the others are forget fund and the national health insurance levy. The second one too, there was a sale which is on credit sales. That one too was also VAT inclusive. That's why we have used the same 4 over 189 to over 189 to multiply the 50,000 concerned or 50,000 in the question. And you have seen the answers there. Then when it comes to the VAT aspect, you use 1 over 9 to calculate and know the VAT. When you come to the sale of mosquito nets too, they are exempted items. We don't charge VAT on them, so we don't need to calculate anything. Drawing of goods for personal use, when you take some of the goods that you are selling for your own use, if you take the goods for your own use, for GRA, you have to charge VAT. It's not for free. They will let you charge VAT on that and you pay to the GRA. So that is a standard item, rated item. And the VAT, I should have made it 2.5% on the 36,000 and then another 2.5% on the 36,000. But now I know you know these things, that 2.5% is for get fund, 2.5% is for what? National health insurance levy. The two will give you the 5%. So in order not to waste much time, when I was doing it, I just made it 5% of the figure. Because if you separate it, it's the same answer that you get for the two. So I made it 5% on a 36,000 and I had 1,800. I now added it to the 36,000 before calculating my VAT of 12.5%, which is the same as 0.125, 125. And I had just 4,725 and I added it to the 1.8 to give me 6,525, which is the overall tax. But the VAT component is the 4,725. When it comes to sale of machine for disables, sale of machine for use by disables, we are selling machine for disabled to use it. If we are selling machines to disabled for them to use them, we don't also charge VAT. It's also exempted item. They are all in the news. So their items too are exempted. That is why we didn't calculate any VAT. And when you want to appeal to your customers for them to pay you very early before even the due date, and you try to give out discounts, when you see anything of discounts, you first need to take out the discount value from the amount involved or the taxable value. And then the remaining amount left is what you're going to calculate your VAT on. So if you look at the question, last aspect of the question, there was a sale to customers subject to VAT of what? Subject to a discount of 5%. So if you take the 5% of it, the remaining 95% of that will be the 14,250 that you see in the question here. So 14,250 is what I'm going to use to calculate mine 5%. And the 5% is for both get fund and then the national health insurance levy. And the figure that I added it to the 14,250 before calculating my VAT as I've been doing. And that is how it's being done. So after I've gotten these things, then I now come and calculate that of my output VAT and my input VAT. Since I'm tired to do it, so forgive me. So I now come and calculate my input VAT. And These things, I've taken my time to explain them in the first two presentations that I made on the VAT. So when you talk of the input VAT, that is whereby you, the supplier, the one who is selling the item now, when you were also going to buy items to come and work on, so as to add value and then charge your VAT. The amount you paid is the what? Input VAT. And the person that you purchase those items from, they also have to take VAT from you. That is why you need to calculate that for you to know the amount you paid to those people who supplied you your materials and other equipment and other expenses you incurred before you were able to add value, and then you were also able to sell. So the input VAT, when you calculate it, the same is the same rate. We use the same rates to calculate those things. So when you calculate it, the figures you get at the end of the day, you compare this input VAT with the output VAT. So the output VAT is what you are selling, the VAT you have charged on those items. And then the input VAT is what you purchased, the VAT you paid on those items. You compare the two. If the input VAT is lower, then it means that what you paid for your VAT is lower than what you have collected from people. So the difference will go towards GRA. On the other side of it, if what you have also uh, paid before you had your items was higher than what you have sold, then the difference will also come to you. So you get a refund from GRE. That's how it's being done. So if you look at that also, and that will come under purchases. So if you are doing this input and output calculation, know that as soon as you see supplies or sales, that will deal with what? Output VAT. And as soon as you see purchases and then expenses, that will go with what? Input VAT calculation. So the information on the expenses and then the purchases is what I'm using for the computation of the input VAT. And if you look at them, it's the same thing. The only thing that I want to stress on uh, are the items that we are treating. Whether the item we are treating, we can claim the VAT on or we cannot claim it. So we have expenditure made for business meals by the managing director. If you're a managing director of a company and you have purchased meals or you have ordered for meals, you cannot say that you are going to claim those VAT from GRE. You're supposed to pay for that, and that is all. So it's not being allowed. That is why I didn't do any calculation at all. But if the order had been for the whole institution and the workers and other people are enjoying it, that one, they do allow you. But if it's for your own personal one, no, you can't. So we have things that are accepted and things that are not accepted. And even that, it depends. So let me look at the second item here. We have acquisition of equipment. Equipment, if you have acquired equipment so as to be able to conduct your business, that one you have all the right to claim back the input VAT that you paid on the equipment. So you have to calculate it going through the same procedure as I did under the output VAT. And then you know the actual VAT that is involved, and then you also know the combination of what the get fund and then the levy that is also involved. Then you come to expenses paid for communication. That's also, if you have paid VAT on it, it's accepted. So you can claim it back. It's accepted and you can claim it back. And then we also have a situation whereby expenses have been paid for importation of what? Taxable supply. If we have paid VAT on importation of taxable supply means that the items that they are supplying you, they were imported and it's a standard item. If it is a standard item, of course, the input VAT that you paid, you have the right to calculate it and then take it out of the output VAT. And this one, the import of those taxable supply items that you see here, You can see in the brackets that it's VAT inclusive, meaning they have already added the VAT components for National Health Insurance levy and then the gets fund and then VAT itself. So we have to use the fractions that I talked about to know the components that is for National Health Insurance levy, component for get fund, and then components for the actual VAT. So that's how it's being done. And then we have expenditure for consultancy services. Expenditure for consultancy services. When you see expenditure for consultancy services, it's a standard rated supply. And therefore, if you have paid VAT on it, you have every right to claim it back. So you can calculate it and then get it back from your output VAT. Then we have expenses without VAT invoices received. You, the producer, you've incurred some expenditure or expenses. Instead of you to collect VAT invoices on them and keep them for future sake or as evidence that you have paid those VATs, you didn't do that. So you don't have any record or records on the expenditure that you've made. And you want to calculate it and take it from your output VAT. The GRA will not allow that because anything that you buy and you have paid VAT on, you have to get a receipt in the form of what? VAT invoice or invoices. And anything that you're also selling to people and you are calculating or you are charging VAT on, you also need to issue to them VAT invoices in the form of what? Receipt. So if you don't do that, at the end of the day, you cannot talk about those things when you are doing your input and output VAT calculations. So it will go against the producer because he has no records on those things. So it's not allowed. So you cannot calculate any input VAT and claim it. Then we have credit purchases. That one is allowed. It's a standard rated item, and therefore they can calculate it, and the calculation is there. If you see SS, the SS shows that it's a standard rated what item. Standard rated item. That's the SS that written there. It's a standard rated item. So when you see SS, that's the meaning, standard supply or standard rated item or standard supply. Then if you look at what I've done here, I've shown the total of the output VAT. I've shown the total of the input VAT. The difference to GRA, I've shown it. So at the end of the day, the producer has to pay this to GRA in addition to the National Health Insurance levy and then the gets fund. So the total tax that will be due the company will be the 49,057.20. That's the total VAT or tax the producer has to pay to GRA. I've separated them, or I showed this one first before this one because I told you that they have to fill two forms indicating the difference on what the actual VAT, and then another form indicating the amounts for National Health Insurance levy and then the GET fund. So that's how the presentation will be. So I'm done with that, and now that this one is complete, I'll send this. I'll send the presentation to you. So thank you very much. Bye.